Okay, you can let people in. Hold on, we're just letting everyone into the meeting.
Okay, I'll wait for people to come in.
No.
That's it, huh? All right. I'll call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Williams Community Public Utility District. Board directors are present. Director McElroy is here on Zoom from New Zealand. You can participate in the meeting but cannot vote. Today is December the 27th.
Yes.
2023, coming to the end. All right, and with that, we'll move on to community expression, an opportunity for members of the audience to address the board on matters which are not on the agenda and for which we can take no action, but we would entertain a brief discussion if you have anything to bring to the board. Is there any community expression items? None appearing. I'm going to move on to item 4, which is the manager's report and project updates. Take it away, Jennifer.
Okay, thank you. I just have a short update on the status of the water supply. As of last week, December 21st, we had received 9.92 inches of rain. I think that this most recent rain probably put us over 10 inches, but I don't have a measurement yet. And so that's still less than average rainfall for this time of year, which is usually about 12.8 inches. But we do have rain in the forecast for essentially the rest of the month. If it all kind of comes in as forecast over the next few days, we would our rainfall totals would be right around 12 inches, so getting closer to average. Between November 14th and December 21st, the water production in the district's averaging about 55,000 gallons a day, which is a pretty big drop as from the last reporting period when we were producing about 70,000 gallons per day. But the treatment plant was off for 7 days during that period. Essentially, when we have very low consumption and the tanks are full, we can turn off the plant. And so, you know, that happened on 7 different days during that reporting period. And consumption similarly, it dropped down to about 58,000 gallons per day, or about 100 gallons per day per connection, which was a drop from the last reporting period where we were at about 117 gallons per day per connection. So it's all very understandable given the rainy conditions and shorter days. As for water and storage, our Wood Rat 1 reservoir is full and it's filling. And the Wood Rat 2 reservoir is full right to the lip. It's not yet spilling, but it's essentially full as well. The flows in the Arroyo Hondo Creek continue to be much higher than in recent drought years because of the average annual rainfall last year. And we're continuing to meet demand with the Arroyo Hondo Creek, and we have not had to use any water from either of the reservoirs. Quick update on our groundwater wells projects. Last Thursday, our consultant submitted the coastal development permit applications for the well projects. So see how that goes. We also submitted our first quarterly progress report to the Department of Water Resources that was due on December 18th, which was 3 months after the date of execution of our funding agreement. And the subsequent quarterly reports will be submitted on a faster clip than that. We're obliged to report no less than quarterly, but we have a number of quarters to catch up on. So we'll be submitting some additional reports and requesting reimbursement of some costs. On terms of general operations, the treatment plants I mentioned earlier has been off periodically because our tanks have been full. It's off again today with full tanks, and we know we have this upcoming series of storms. The generator at the water treatment plant has been repaired and is back online. I think I mentioned last time that we had a rental generator out there for several weeks. And we're continuing to strategize about how to deal with the Azola that is back in the reservoir. I think I mentioned at last month's meeting as well that this was a surprise at this time of year. We haven't typically seen the Azola grow. It usually starts growing when the days start getting longer and it's warmer. So Anyway, we've got it, you know, it's trapped in the reservoir, so it doesn't escape off our property and flow down across to Bill Nyman's property. But we're looking at options. The staff is able to remove a lot of it, but it's you know, it gets past a certain point and you need bigger equipment. And for those who were on the board in 2020, we did hire an outside company at that time with bigger kind of conveyor belt type equipment to be able to pull the Azola off. There's also some companies that have these almost sort of pontoon boats with almost forklifts in front of them, and they scoop up the material and then drive over to the side of the reservoir, can lift it up and put the Azola out. So we're looking at what might be cost effective in that regard. But it's really a pernicious problem that we don't want that organic material to be living on top of the reservoir because it renders it anoxic, which is bad. And we also don't want it then to just die and sink to the bottom, because then all those organic nutrients are there and that messes with the water quality. So mechanical removal has been the solution, but we are just grappling with when can we do it ourselves? When do we have enough equipment, or when do we just need to kind of make the recommendation that we get an outside service with bigger specialized equipment to come in? So we're trying to make that decision. We're just talking about it today at a staff meeting. Briefly, there's in your binders is a new state water board reporting rule that's going to affect in January about specific reporting requirements for annual supply and demand data. We are already essentially providing that information and reporting it, so it's not going to be too burdensome, but it's I think they're trying to centralize reporting of a lot of this information. We're also working on an update of our operations plan and our emergency response plan, both of which were last updated in 2017, so they need to be updated. We may recommend that we get a review by California Rural Water Association. They have some folks that they provide full service operations plan update services. And we spoke with them about it, but decided that it wouldn't be cost effective. We can essentially do that ourselves. But if we decide that that would be something we should consider, I'll bring it back to the board at next month's meeting. We may be able to just handle it ourselves.
Okay, question.
Yeah.
They can do it for us, or we can do it ourselves. Is there a middle ground where we can do it ourselves and then they can look, they can review it essentially?
Yeah, that's what we would be looking at.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought I heard you say. This
Yeah. That, and you have to decide whether that would add enough value to make it worthwhile. And they're great. I mean, they're not about trying to sell services to you that you don't need, but it became clear, we all agreed in talking with them that because the plan is so specific to our water treatment plant, it can't be done very effectively by outside people. You really have to have the people working with the equipment and all of the required documentation. I just thought it might save us some time, but it's a good training exercise for all of the operations crew as well. So they haven't minded doing it at all. It's just time consuming. So, yeah, but that's what we would be recommending, that we would have essentially a draft updated plan, and then whether or not we think it would benefit from an additional sort of fine-tuning review. That's the question.
Yeah, thank you.
We had a meeting earlier this month on December 7th with a representative from an entity called the Rural Community Assistance Corporation, which is a nonprofit entity based in Sacramento that provides training, technical, and financial assistance to rural community organizations such as rural water districts, as well as a lot of other kind of community organizations. Our district is on their radar because the district is designated as what they call at risk by the state water board, meaning at risk of water shortages. And so this organization is notified to come meet with us and see if there's ways that they could help us apply for possible technical or financial assistance, which, I mean, we're certainly open to that, in terms of, whether or not there could be grant funding sources available to us that could help us with some of our projects. We talked with them with the representative about the type of projects we were looking at, so. And her services are free. They have a contract with the state water board, and then they provide services to districts that the water board has said, yes, we want them to get some of your help because they're a small rural district that is otherwise could benefit from that technical assistance. So we met on the 7th and then agreed to sort of reconvene again after the holidays. Just on the sewer side of operations, our spray season is over. That ended in November. We are doing a lot of monitoring of our collection system because we are seeing, a bump up in sewer flows again now that we have the stormy weather, much less than last year, I'm happy to say, but still clearly impacted by tides and or rain. So we're doing some more video inspections and just continue to make all our efforts to tighten up the collection system as much as we can.
And is that predominantly downtown?
Yeah, it's basically, we're seeing some higher flows coming in from other sections of the system. We just gotta kind of track it down and see what might be going on. People, unknowingly, some people don't realize that we're not a combined sewer stormwater system. So it happen very often, but it's not, sometimes there have been people that have directed their roof gutter system into the sewer, not realizing that that's not allowed on our sewer system. And so when we find one of those, we have to tell them to disconnect it. And so sometimes we have that could be going on because the area of town where we're seeing some higher flows, it was corresponded exactly with the rain, which suggests that it's more of a tie-in to actual rainfall than it is to the groundwater table coming up either through we haven't had enough rain yet to really be impacting the groundwater table, I don't think, but we are getting those high tides. We've had really high tides. Yeah, so that's
Particularly today, so
yeah.
next month we should be able to hear more.
Yeah, I think there's one more round of high tides in January of the king tides. There were 2 sets of them this month, and then one more round in January. We had a meeting earlier this month as well on December 6th with our residents on Canyon Road to talk about the lateral connections to the sewer system. We had both Andrew and Kevin also attended, as did our engineer Mark Wilson from Newt Engineering. And we kind of talked overall with the residents about the concept we have for the project, whereby each household would be allowed, because we have the regional board approval now, to allow them to connect to the system via, they probably have a holding tank and small pump system that would then pressurize their lateral line to connect to the existing sewer main on Terrace Avenue. And so it was, we talked about for about an hour and a half and gave an overview of the project. And I think there was just a lot of detail that we needed to present to the homeowners, and there were a lot of questions, and it was difficult to answer some of the questions relating to cost, because we actually don't have specific costs that we can give them other than the engineering and design services. But Mark Wilson is working on a similar project in San Rafael, and that project's about to go out to bid. And he thought at that point we could reconvene because he'd have some better information about the likely cost of the construction and installation. So that's kind of to be continued at this point, probably sometime next month. I attended a meeting also this month with the County Environmental Health Services and the Land Trust about the septic use permit program. If you remember this, we enacted resolution 681 several years ago now, I think, in anticipation of this pilot septic program that the land trust was doing. And as things have worked out, the program is still going forward, but is being implemented somewhat differently than was envisioned when 681 was passed. And so the conversation and meeting was about clarifying respective responsibilities. And we will probably need to amend resolution 681 just so that it accurately reflects the program. But the role of the district remains the same, which is essentially to place program participants under specific septic system limited water use permits and enforce those as we do our other permits. The more close monitoring will be conducted by the land trust or environmental health. So more to come on that as I know what we need to do to amend the resolution. I just don't like it having sitting out there, not actually reflecting how the program is going to operate. So that was we would probably be having a follow-up meeting about that in the new year as well. I reported at last month's meeting that one of our inverters at the water treatment plant is down, and I've been making a lot of calls to try to get a solar repair and maintenance company that, you know, servicing commercial systems like we have the larger size. There's a lot of residential maintenance companies, but the to get someone to come service commercial system it's a lot harder. They really only want to service systems that they installed. I have found a company that they can't come out until February 22nd. And given that the inverter's down, you know, we're kind of losing money on a regular basis because of that. So I'm going to keep trying to find somebody, but it's been more challenging than I would have thought. So it's hard to know whether the inverter just needs some sort of resetting, that it can be that it's a programming or other issue that can be addressed relatively easily, or whether the inverter actually needs to be replaced. It's unclear at this point, but it's not working at all. We also had a staff meeting with Chris Backenstoss recently. You'll remember several months ago, the board approved a proposal to transition off of AT&T for our remaining phone lines, and those specifically for the alarm systems at the water treatment plant and the lift station. And there have been a few bumps in the road about getting that sorted out. Chris essentially has concluded that he is not happy with the monitoring, third-party monitoring entity that he was recommending, and he wants to go an alternative route whereby he installs some equipment that the staff can monitor on a daily basis. So we met with everybody to make sure that they felt comfortable with that role, which they do. They don't feel comfortable then having to do something about it. At that point, they want to know, like, hey, if we notice this equipment, you know, the indicator that the equipment's down, then it would be serviced by a technician. They don't, you know, not by our staff, but they could monitor on a regular basis. So I think that's the direction that we're going in, and I'll know more about that in the next few weeks as well. Last week I attended the Office of Emergency Management monthly meeting. I've been mentioning these recently that have started up about 6 months ago. Regular meetings of the cities and towns and special districts in Marin to talk about emergency planning preparedness. And this topic this meeting was National Weather Service weather forecasting, and we had an update from the National Weather Service meteorologist, which is interesting. And there's no section of California that's in drought at this time. That the rain last year across California was between 100 and 125% of normal. And the Weather Service is currently closely monitoring the El Nino Southern Oscillation, or ENSO, to look at what it might portend for the January, February, March timeframe. They still think that for Marin, that the outlook for above average precipitation is really the highest in January, and then it of the remaining months, and then it just declines after that. In terms of the probability of getting above average rainfall, but it's also a lot of unpredictability. But it was interesting to hear how they're looking at things in short-term and long-term forecasting. Toxic Away Day has been rescheduled again until sometime in February. The transition of personnel has really kind of caused this year to be, I think, a little bit bumpy. I think that once the new people are all in place, we'll resume with the November Toxic Away Day. I told them we still want to have it. We get regular calls about it. I said that February would be fine. And that's, so we're now looking at a weekend in February, and then that'll go back to November. So quickly on the bike path project, the surveyors were on site last month and will be back next week for a day. They just basically by happenstance discovered that they thought that one of the footpaths was the actual bike route, and so they mapped a section incorrectly. Yeah, and actually it was a chance remark by Ken Masterton to me about how he was concerned they might have taken a misturn when they were surveying. And I went out there over the Christmas holiday weekend and found that in fact I saw some survey points that were in the wrong place and brought it to their attention. I think it was just, there's a kind of a maze of paths in there, and if you're not really familiar with it, and anyway, so they're coming back to get that correctly mapped. We have moved the privately raised match funds have been transferred to the BCPUD at this point, so we do have those in hand. And then there's a status report on that project that's due to California State Parks, which is the funding agency, at the end of this week. So I'll be submitting that by Friday. With regard to SB 1383, that's the organics law that requires that food waste go into the green waste stream rather than into landfill. We have potentially interesting news here, which is that SB 613 was enacted in this last legislative session, and it goes into effect on January 1st, and it might provide us an opportunity to apply again for an exemption. As I'm reading the law, they tried to correct the problem that we encountered. I don't know if you guys will remember this, but we applied for a low population waiver because we're under 7,500 people, and the district disposes of less than 5,000 tons of solid waste per year. What happened is, under the regulations, Cal Recycle said you have to be able to show that you reported that in the Cal Recycle system in 2014. We had no way to do that because the hauler was reporting all of unincorporated Marin in one number. But you could, by kind of reverse engineering, you could look and make a very strong argument that it was impossible, like all of unincorporated Marin was barely 5,000 tons. And so they were pointing out that it's just literally an impossibility, that Molinas would have had more, but the regulators would not accept that data. And so this new law seems to have provided another way to submit data for 2014. So I'm going to apply for the waiver again. You can apply in January, and we'll see what happens. I would be more optimistic.
Can't let common sense get in the way.
Yeah, I don't want to get too deterred by common sense. Exactly. So last month I attended the deputy zoning administrator hearing over at the county on the residential permit parking program. And that was approved. Sherry Hirsch was there, as was Lucy Reed, I believe, and a couple other people from Molinas. And an email from the planner that we got a couple weeks ago said that there were no local appeals. So the county sent a final action notice to the Coastal Commission, which triggers their appeals process. And so that process, their appeal period at the Coastal Commission started December 11th and ended yesterday. So I haven't heard whether the Coastal Commission appealed it. I think I think I would have heard if they had, but, so I'm not sure. But if there was no appeal by the coastal commission, then we'll start with the implementation process. So.
What would be the first step on that?
Well, I think that the county will need to do all the various signage. Remember, there's kind of three components where on the non-residential side of Brighton, there will be no vehicles, parking for vehicles larger than 22 feet in length between 11 PM and 5 AM. Then there's some other sections, there's another section of wharf, and then the residential permit parking is on the residential side of Brighton, as well as some areas of wharf. So we will be involved when it comes down to issuing the permits for the residential permit.
Yeah.
Program.
Great.
Just logistics. Are we gonna, people gonna get stickers, right? Stickers on their car, what are they getting?
Yeah,
How do we know?
That's-
Does the sheriff know?
yeah, it'll be, it'll be stickers, and it has to be something that's permanently affixed to the car. It can't be something that is traded out between different cars.
Sure, yeah, I remember that part. And where did those come from? Do we go online and order them, or does the sheriff have
Yeah.
are there official channels where you get the ones that they like the best, or how?
Yeah, we would be working with the sheriff's office on that. They
Mhm.
administer a very similar program in the neighborhood around the College of Marin. And so the parking officer that enforces that program has met with us, and and Supervisor Rodoni has come up with the initial seed money to purchase the permit stickers. And then the main role that we're having is in verifying people's eligibility for the stickers.
But we were actually handing them out as well, right? If they're verified,
Yeah,
that was my understanding.
yeah. So we will be working with the sheriff's department on that.
So the first stage then is the signage.
I
We
believe
could do it
so.
Simultaneously.
Yeah.
couldn't we?
I was just
Get
wondering,
everything rolling
sequential,
along.
or,
I don't see where it needs to be.
I'm sure Sherry Hirsch would probably know. I don't know that level of
Okay,
detail.
all right.
Yeah. Next, I wanted to talk just briefly about the BCPUD's jurisdictional profile in the updated Marin County multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan. Our draft profile is complete and available. There's a link on our website that you can click on to view it, and it's been submitted to Cal OES as part of the county's entire plan update. There are key sections that relate to identified hazards in Marin, and specifically in Bolinas. And we have projects identified in the plan that are designed to mitigate against the hazards that are flagged. And this renders, by being in this plan, the district's eligible then for hazard mitigation funding from FEMA. And the primary hazards that are identified in Bolinas are drought, severe weather, meaning wind and severe storms, sea level rise, earthquake, wildfire, and erosion. There's others as well, but those are the highest level land problems. And then we have about, I think, 19 hazard mitigation projects that we included in the plan. The county did some mapping of the Bolinas facilities, but they didn't have, I don't know where they were getting their information. It wasn't accurate. So the maps that are in the plan right now aren't exactly accurate, but we've given them all the data, and they're in the process of getting this corrected. There's also an email in your board materials from the private consultant that's really been leading the effort on the hazard mitigation plan update. And he kind of just gives you, I thought it was a good summary of kind of where everything stands at this point. And I'm just really happy that the BCPUD's profile was included in the initial round. And so it'll, we'll probably be asking you to formally approve it at the January meeting. I'm waiting to hear, we have to get the maps corrected before that can happen too. But Cal OES is aware that our maps are under development, and they're willing to review it, understanding that that'll be corrected later. Any questions there? Then moving on, I have some, just a brief update about, the, various tree projects that we've been working on for the last few months. You all know that we had a risk assessment done by Ray Moritz of Urban Forestry Associates, and really looking primarily at 3 locations: the eucalyptus grove along and the trees along Mesa and Lima Bolinas Road, as well as the trees that used to be here at 270 Elm, and then trees out our water tank site. And so I won't reiterate my entire memo. I did put a memo in the board binders about a follow-up site meeting that we had on November 20th with the fire chief and the PG&E vegetation program manager, where we looked again at specific trees that were identified in Ray's report. And the bottom line is that if you look at the trees now bordering the road, most of them have either 2 red dots on them, or they have white X's or white dots, which are trees that PG&E, the trees with the 2 red dots, have already been were submitted a while ago for permitting to either remove them or remove most of the canopy. And then the trees that have the white X's or white dots on them are the next round of trees that have been submitted. And so I think there's 7 with red dots and 11 with white X's, or
That's what I counted.
yeah. And then we asked them during the site visit to evaluate 2 other trees, and one is still under evaluation, but a second one on Lima Bolinas Road was added. So I think that brings it up to, so that's 12 additional trees that have been added, with 1 still under evaluation. With regard to the trees here at 270 Elm Road, we ultimately did get the confirmation from the county that we did not need a coastal permit to take the trees down, and so we took them down. And you can see during the day that there's a lot of material left over in terms of the lengths of log, and we will deal with that just slowly over time. But we were able to at least eliminate the hazards by getting the trees down, and we got the brush chipped up.
Did they clarify when it will be required for the coastal commission to have an approval or not?
Well, no, not exactly. What happened is that they were trying to decide whether it fell under the criteria of visually prominent trees. And that, because that's apparently also another category of tree that can require coastal permits. And of course, if there's a environmentally sensitive habitat area or protected species or something like that, which is not the case with these trees. And so the decision had to be whether or not the county felt that it somehow met the criteria of visually prominent. Yeah.
And then what are we doing about stump removal or kind of rounding of the chips?
We don't have any current plans to do that. No, I mean, it's just expensive.
So the chip is probably, you just want to remove the logs, but the grinding of the stumps is something we probably want to explore. Otherwise, the trees are just going to grow back, right?
I don't know if cypress, I know eucalyptus can do that. With the eucalyptus, Ray recommended in his report that they be covered with plastic, and that's what we're gonna do at the tank site. I don't know that that's an issue with cypress.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah,
I don't know for sure.
I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the eucalyptus, so we will cover with a black plastic to
Yeah.
prevent the regrowth, and that's the project that I'm proposing for tonight to have you evaluate and ideally approve. This is for the trees. There's a planting of 17 trees out at our water tank site along Lima Bolinas Road. So that's at the top of the hill. And Ray's report recommended that there were specific recommendations for tree removal or pruning. So there's 17 trees there. I think 5 of them was full removal, and the other 12 were specific pruning recommendations. And we have a proposal from the professional tree care company for the recommended work at a cost of $9,200, $9,200. We did offer the opportunity to Pacific Slope to submit a bid on the project, and they, basically said they don't have the necessary equipment. Pacific Tree Care Company has a much bigger equipment and can operate more effectively on that kind of work for that pruning. Again, I will run it by the planning department to make sure that a coastal permit isn't required. I'm not expecting that, but if you approve it, I'll definitely run that by and make sure that we don't have to get one. So do you have any questions about that?
Kevin has his hand up. Kevin.
Kevin?
Look, you're muted.
Hey, sorry about that. I noticed in that professional tree care company proposal that district staff will perform traffic control. Do you know how many days of work they're proposing? I couldn't find that. And will that be a burden for staff? Is that one operator or 2 operators, or what's that about? Do you know?
Yeah, I asked for us to do that because it brought the price down by $6,000. So I said, what you knocked it, because the original price was $6,000 higher, and they said 6,000 was for traffic control, and so I said that we would do it. and I don't know. I can get the information. It's 1 or 2 days is my thinking, although I have to admit I don't know for sure.
Okay, well, yeah, $6,000 seems like good value.
Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah.
Thank you. And I noticed at the top it says 299 Mesa Road, but this is 290 Mesa Road, right?
I noticed that.
Yeah, it's so what we're all talking about the same place, but there's been different addresses. There's actually no official address for it, but it's we're talking about the same place, and I apologize for the confusion.
All right, want to proceed?
Well, can I get a vote on whether or not you would like to proceed with that project?
Okay. Anybody want to?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve on the 9,200 to proceed with the project. And I think to your point, Kevin, just clarifying what the actual address is.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 4-0.
Seems like a really good deal.
Okay.
For tree work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty
These are smaller trees, just so you know. I mean, as compared to these that took about 5 full days to get, well, 3, I think, to get them all down.
Yeah.
And it was easy because we could drop them right here. What's tricky about this is that you have to be in the road and need the traffic control, but the 5 trees that need to come out are not huge. And then the targeted pruning is also, I mean, it's extensive, but it's fairly surgical. So it's really a fact that they have the right equipment to do it effectively. Yeah. But thank you, and I will make sure, I will talk to the county to make sure we don't have a permitting issue there. Related to trees, I just put in your binder some information about the Monarch Genomics project. We were contacted by a researcher with the Colorado State University last week, introduced to us by Nan Monroe, that they're doing research about trying to apply new methods to inform recovery strategies for North American monarch butterflies. And so they wanted to come on site yesterday to obtain some dead monarchs, and they have permits that allow them to take no more than 5 live specimens, and they're doing analysis to understand the degree to which migratory Western monarchs that overwinter in California are connected to non-migratory Western monarchs that breed year-round. and to then understand the distribution of those monarchs and also the degree to which monarchs from each breeding population migrate to specific overwintering sites. It was pretty interesting scientific work, and they are just a couple of sites in California that they were coming to. So anyway, they came. I didn't hear from the researcher yesterday, but they were on the researcher was on site yesterday. And then under Alliance of Coastal Marine Villages, I don't have any update there. So that's the end of my report.
All right, thank you. Going to item 5.
I think Kevin's got his hand raised.
Oh, sorry. Kevin.
Yeah. Jennifer, go back quickly to the local hazard mitigation plan. I have a quick question.
Yeah.
You mentioned 19 projects. Are these all BPUD projects that we hope to undertake, or are they projects that the county will be doing? Or I'm just sort of curious about those. And if I think you said that we'll be seeing more of this next month, so I'm happy to wait until then. But I'm just sort of curious what those projects are.
Yeah, and it's on pages 105 through 107 of the plan, and you can access it on our website. There's a link on the main page of the website. But it's primarily the BPUD projects. Some of them would be projects that would be in concert with the County of Marin, but most of them are BPUD projects. Including kind of everything that we could think of to have projects that would respond to specific hazards. And so if you look at table 14, page 105 to 107, that's where you'll see the projects listed.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else before we move on?
Okay.
All right. Item 5, limited water use permit application for the property at 52 Crescente, parcel numbers 193, 092, 18 and 19, and 193, 111, 09, basically demolishing the existing single family dwelling, the detached garage and a shed, and to construct a new 3,938 square foot single family dwelling with an attached garage. Laura and Chris Deem. I assume that's you folks, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. So in our binders, we do have copies of the plans, and you understand the concept of the limited water use process that we have. So this is obviously a project that would qualify for a limited water use permit. And the amount of water that would be allowed sometimes is based on historical use or not, depending on what the historical use has been. Jennifer, is there any recommendation on what we would do with this?
Well, I just noticed in this, so the way that the board determines the amount of water allocated under limited water use permits is set out in resolution 655, and exhibit A to 655 has you look at the last 12 quarters of water use at the property, which when you add that all up, the average quarterly water use is 2,325 cubic feet per quarter, which is less than 2,700 cubic feet, which the board has said the permit is granted at the higher of the quarterly average use over 12 quarters, or the 2,700 cubic feet community average plus 50%. So here that would indicate then that the 2,700 cubic foot allotment would be appropriate.
All right. And you understood that already, that would be the amount of water you'd be getting?
We didn't know the exact amount, but we knew that we would have a quota, so to speak. Yeah.
Okay. For purposes of the design, number of bedrooms and the people who will be using it, that should be enough water to take care.
It will be.
Yeah.
Hopefully our kids are gone. No.
Well, yeah.
We have a basement on the design.
Yeah, right, exactly, yes. Yeah,
All right, any questions from
No,
anyone?
I mean, I appreciate you are implementing an underground water catchment system.
Mhm.
I think it was 2,600.
each
26.
tank is 20, well, just under 2,600, so it's a total of 7,500 gallons.
So I'm curious, is that dedicated specifically to the irrigation? Or do you plan on
We
using potable water?
We believe we're not allowed to use it as potable water.
Right.
I would like to put a, future-proof it if that becomes allowable. Which basically means a UV filter and
A whole filter.
the whole thing. We won't put it in, but we'll plumb it so that we could. if we
Okay,
have
so but the underground system or the catchment system is specifically for your irrigation
That's right.
purposes.
That's
Will
right.
you plan, now that we know what your allotted use is
Yeah.
allowed, do you plan on using BCPUD water for your irrigation
No,
system?
I don't think so. Well, so we've been doing the native hillside, coastal native hillside restoration. And that takes water to get it established, but
Mhm.
after 2.5 years or so that we don't irrigate it. And so has it been like 3 years that we've been doing this? Or
At
longer?
least.
4 years.
Yeah.
So as we plant more, we irrigate, but we abandon the other parts of the hill, so. This has been a long process, but, I don't know, within 3-4 years, we probably won't need any irrigation.
I was looking at the list of the plants.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I was making that, oh, I hadn't heard about that species of that thing, yeah,
Oh,
it looks like a wonderful,
Yeah.
a wonderful mixture
Yeah.
of native plants that.
Yeah.
Your landscape is.
Yeah.
Pretty committed.
and I would like to clarify, the 3,900 square feet number is really shocking.
It is.
The house is actually 2,700 square feet. And then there's a 600 square foot garage, which is my shop. Where I work, and then 575 square foot basement, which is shop storage and spray booth and things that I can work.
But within the footprint of the other structures, you mean?
Well, it's the house is 2,700 square foot footprint. 600 square foot garage footprint with the storage under that,
Right,
so.
so it's a double.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah, it's
roughly 3,300 square foot footprint. And,
all conditioned space,
No. Storage in the shop will not be.
okay. And I'm just curious, are you required for a fire sprinkler system?
Yeah.
In the conditioned and unconditioned
Yeah.
space?
Because they're attached.
Any other, Kevin, you have any questions?
Yeah, I enjoyed reading through your plans, and as a neighbor, I appreciated your thoughtfulness about bringing trucks up our fragile roads and possibly carpooling up from, you mentioned Mesa Park as a possibility. Just wondering if you've had any conversations with the Mesa Park board yet, because I know, well, for one thing, we're trying to put a post office there, and they tend to get pretty crowded at certain times of the year, certain weekends. So I would just encourage you to check in with them, because they manage that parking lot along with Jennifer as well.
Yeah, we spoke with Jennifer about it, and she was saying that she told us that Mesa Park is impacted more than you would think, and suggested we talk to the church across from the farm stand, who also has offered that service in the past, I believe, to people. So we may go to them first, actually.
The church.
Yeah,
Saint Mary.
yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Any other questions about this? Okay, sounds like so, looks good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You need a motion and you need to approve it, yeah.
Right, so we need a motion then to approve the limited water use permit application at 2,700. cubic feet per quarter, right?
I'll make, I'll second.
You moved and you seconded,
Either way.
Yes.
okay? All right, all in favor?
I,
All right, 4-0.
Great.
Congratulations on your project.
Thank you.
Well,
You're well.
It's
Just have to get for us. Yeah. Just have to get approved.
Yeah. Yeah,
Who are you working with at Ground Studio?
Bernard,
Brenner?
yeah, and then David,
yeah. David,
what's-
Roy.
David Roy,
David Leroy, not
Yeah.
Ben.
and Johnson Bullard,
Okay,
yeah, so,
cool. That's gonna be great.
yeah, so.
It'll be beautiful.
So are the California native landscape guys, CNL guys at Camp Junction.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
great. They're
They,
really
they've
great.
done what, everything that we've been,
So
Okay.
far,
and
Yeah.
they'll continue to do the
yeah.
downslope, and Ground Studio will make the transition.
Cool.
The little area that we got from doing the fence, which we'll send photos of, but yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you so much.
Good.
Yeah, I know.
Bye. Thank you.
okay, moving on to item 6. EPUD letter to Marin County Parks regarding traffic safety concerns relating to the Bolinas Lagoon Y wetlands resiliency project and the reconfigured intersection of Bolinas Road and Highway 1, which is an ongoing concern that we have. And getting anywhere with the people who are involved.
Well, this is a letter to send to see if they'll respond.
But has there been any conversation or any feedback since the last time we talked to the people at the county and?
Doesn't sound like it.
Well, I promised Rob that I would reach out to Veronica and I sent her a message and she said that there are ongoing discussions with Caltrans and
Yeah,
looking into it. That's all I've got.
oh, okay,
And I think Jennifer has spoken with Veronica as well.
yeah, that's where we left it. It sounded like it was gonna be Caltrans is really the ultimate
Yeah,
decision maker, right?
well, no, they've already made a decision, right? So this is us going back and saying. We are challenging your decision.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, they're the ultimate, but we are not happy with what they're saying,
Yeah,
yeah.
so are we in a position we could go even a little bit more heavy handed, which is we are going to. Sit in the middle of the road. Sit what? Sit in the middle of the road.
Yeah, well, we're sending the letter and we definitely have created a good paper trail of how we feel about it, and we've talked to people, and I'm just wondering how much. Actual
Yeah.
leverage we have and persuasiveness
Yeah,
on that.
it sounds like it's outside of the county's ability to manage. So that's why they're reaching out to Caltrans.
Yeah,
I mean, they seem to be easily frustrated, right? They've done a lot of work, and so I know we don't wanna go against the work that they've already done, but. If we feel like we're gonna be inheriting a project that doesn't align with. Our needs or our community's values.
Yeah.
Or our concerns around safety,
yeah,
then where are we?
right. That's a magic question. So, well, let's hope that somebody gets through to Caltrans that comes up with a proposal that is more workable for us than the one that they have now.
So
And,
it sounds like that's with Senator Mike Guire.
Yeah,
okay,
I don't know who else can do
So-
it.
so anyone want to address the board on this issue? Rob?
Yeah, hi. So I think I'm being fair in representing that, my memory when I talked with Veronica Pearson was that, it seemed to me that they were a little bit stuck in terms of timeline. The funding they have has a fuse on it. And Caltrans is hard to communicate with, and they've gone through sort of the basic steps to get some form of approval. And I believe they're going to break ground. If my memory is correct, they're breaking ground in about 6 months from now.
Yeah.
They do it in 2 phases, some this summer and some next summer. And I noticed that the letter that's drafted doesn't have the county supervisor listed as a contact. And I'm wondering whether reaching out to our local representative would be useful in trying to see if there's a way to create a little bit of extra space here in the timeline to do what I think. I don't think that the county planner would be opposed to some betterment in terms of the traffic safety. But she just doesn't have the wherewithal and doesn't have the time to wait for the wheels to turn. So maybe we could create that space. Maybe Dennis Rodani can get the timeline on that funding extended a little bit. So maybe the project gets pushed off one more year. Just a little bit more time for common sense to prevail here.
Well, we can always put Dennis Rodoni to our
Yeah.
list, that's for sure. I don't know how much persuasion he has with Caltrans.
Or direct it to him. I mean, it could be written to him, you know. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not saying that he would be influencing Caltrans, but the county funding. You know, whoever's giving this money to this group to do this project, it's coming from the county. And it's got a fuse on it and it's going to expire. If they don't use it soon, they lose it. So Rodani should be able to talk to other people in the county who are holding the purse strings on that money to allow the deadline on using the money to be extended so that there's a little bit more time, maybe delay the project a year, give some more time for the wheels to turn here, the state assembly member, the state senator to help interact with Caltrans to achieve a betterment. But right now, I think that there's this sort of a critical point in the timeline coming for the county planner, and she's just trying to get a project done and not lose her funding. And if we can create some space there in the timeline, things might work out.
What do you say, Grace?
A friend of mine is the assistant to the supervisor from Sausalito, Stephanie Moulton. And that supervisor specializes in like roads and traffic stuff. She's on all the boards. She's been working on the project to make 37 safer. So she might be somebody with expertise and or contacts. So I would say, let's CC her too. And I don't mind reaching out to the person that I know just to say, hey, this letter's coming from us. Can you get it onto her desk?
Great.
She's supposed to be a great person.
Yeah,
Yeah, and she may know people.
yeah,
And I
exactly.
agree that, you know, if we could work on getting the funding extended if possible and Caltrans listening if possible,
Yeah,
then we may stand a chance of getting something that works better for us.
so she may have their ear, but that,
She might.
yeah. Okay, so are we're proposing changing the person to whom is addressed to Dennis Rodoni, is that right? The letter that's in the binder?
Maybe adding, not changing.
Yeah.
What was your proposal, Rob, to address it to Rodoni rather than to Veronica? Or is that-
I thought just, you know, there's a CC list and I noticed that there was
Yeah.
no county supervisor was included. I proposed adding Rodoni and then I assumed there'll be some follow-up to call some of the people on the CC list, but getting Rodoni on the CC list and then following up.
Yeah. All right, other than that, does anybody have a comment about the letter itself?
I like the fact that it's in bold and underlined.
Yeah, yeah,
I had a really minor one, the installation of a left turn.
yeah, thank you.
yeah,
Super minor.
I was trying to keep it to one page.
Yeah.
And that's why then I just put it at the end. I mean, that's why I bolded the thing at the end, because that's really the ask.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's good.
All right.
No, I appreciated that too.
And then Grace, if you have some ability to communicate sort of on the side. that would
Yeah,
be-
I'll try to do that.
But add that supervisor,
Yeah,
add
it's
Supervisor
Stephanie
Moulton.
Moulton, yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm. Jennifer, do you need a motion to approve the letter?
Yeah,
Okay,
I had one more quick, maybe addition to the letter if possible.
okay,
And I don't know if this is verifiable, maybe somebody could verify it. Would we call this intersection as a historically dangerous intersection? There have been, I don't know how many vehicle accidents, but could we have some language that these intersections have experienced vehicle collisions previously? Is it worth saying that? Because the letter to me is more about potential for accidents, but I would want to add something about this, you know, we've already experienced many vehicle collisions there, but I don't know the number or the rate of accidents. Maybe somebody else could speak to that.
well,
I think some of that's in the letter that I wrote back in August.
Yeah, I think that the problem with that is that Caltrans uses these stats about how many people die over a certain period of time or something. And our response has been, yeah, but you're talking about the stats on the intersection that's not gonna be existing anymore. We're talking about a different intersection, so you can't use that. So I'm a little nervous about
Okay,
Well, they were also looking at how many cars go by, but they weren't counting in December or some damn thing, right?
it. Yeah, it was really bad stats. I'm inclined not to try to talk about the existing Y because it's just not relevant to the new turn off, but I'm defer to the rest of the board on that one.
Well,
I don't know, I mean, I think if we feel it's making a bad situation worse, and we can already qualify the number of deaths that have incurred and or accidents at that location, I don't know how that could hurt us.
Right, well, I thought Rob had found out some data that Caltrans uses and they didn't consider it to be that bad because there were only X number.
Yeah, they were under the threshold.
Yeah, so.
Right.
And I think the letter says that there has not been properly analyzed the single intersection versus the two existing, so.
Yeah, they're comparing apples to oranges if you do that, so. Anyhow, I don't mind that argument, Kevin, but I don't want to get undermined on it. What do you guys think? Want to make reference to the problems with the existing Y as part of it, or leave the letter as it is?
Well, if Rob has already written a letter in August, you know, maybe it's already qualified. And
Okay,
that, and maybe it's just a reference to the letter he wrote. If you don't want to.
that's all right. That's okay. Leave it as it is. Doesn't sound like there's a lot of support. That's okay. Let's send it as it is. I think it's a nice letter. It's a good
Can I
letter.
ask one question about the letter? The ask, the bolded part seems like for informational purposes, is it basically notifying the county that a request is being made of Caltrans as opposed to making an ask of the county?
that's a good
In
question.
terms of the funding,
in terms of.
Of meeting our concerns.
Well, in light of the implications for the safety of Bolinas residents,
Well, the very
sending
end does
copies
say,
of the letter.
yeah, assistance in persuading Caltrans.
A request, I see, assistance in persuading Caltrans. I see, there's the request, okay.
Okay. All right, is there any other comments to amend the letter, or otherwise could get a motion?
I move to approve the letter.
Okay, and have it sent,
I have
right?
it sent
Yeah.
as well to Supervisor Rodoni.
Okay, is there a second?
And Supervisor Moulton, can we send it to her too, just in case?
Yeah.
Supervisor Moulton.
So I think it's just with our, you know, general comments, right?
Yeah,
Is that what your motion is?
I'm motioning to approve the letter with adding the CC to Supervisor Rodoni and Supervisor Moulton.
okay, is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Grace, all in favor?
Um,
Aye, 4-0. All right, we'll see where that goes.
Rob, would you mind if I, sending me a copy of your letter that I could forward to, Supervisor Moulton? I think you're muted.
You muted, Rob.
There we go. Yeah, there's a link to it in the agenda for the September board meeting.
Okay, great. Yeah, I read it carefully then, but I'll go back and find it.
Yeah, so the link is right there. I think you
Okay.
can just pull the PDF from the link, so,
Okay, it's okay with you if I forward it to her then?
yeah, it's fine with me.
Okay,
It's out
thanks.
there.
Now, item
Thank you,
7,
Rob.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Is there a letter of support that's
No, it's basically, I want to get make sure that you would have no objection to if I submit a letter of support for the fire district is intending to submit a wildfire prevention grant application to CAL FIRE. And this was basically they were approached by Conservation Corps North Bay, similar to what was done in the Grove early on. We've done 2 different hazardous fuel cleanups in there, and so Conservation Corps North Bay approached the fire department about applying for a grant to do more work in that, to clean up. I walked through with them, and there's a lot of material on the ground, a lot of bark and material that could be chipped up and removed, and a lot of cleanup work that could. This would be in this section, I guess you call it Zone 5 section. And there's also work that can be done over in the other section above resource recovery. So we wouldn't be at the grantor administering anything, we'd just be basically consenting to more hazardous fuel cleanup on the property and to allowing, into writing a letter of support. I don't know that I honestly can't remember when the grant deadline is. I wanted to just get your, we make sure you wouldn't object, and I didn't, but I don't have a letter ready yet. I'm not sure when the grant deadline is.
I don't think there's a problem. Do you
Okay.
need a vote on it or just a consensus of the board that we support writing the letter?
Okay, I mean, are there any questions or concerns or like
It's
a great idea.
Good idea, yeah.
okay,
Okay, thumbs up from Kevin.
okay,
All right.
okay.
Item 8, proposal from Janet Fleming for engineering services, the radial gate condition assessment. Lower diversion point on Arroyo Hondo Creek, on the Point Reyes National Seashore. And in our binder is that proposal. And what's the the recommendation?
Well, this was a proposal that has been reworked based on input from the operations committee. The operations committee, Kevin and Andrew and myself met with Bill Milhone, the engineer here, about both of these proposals. The radial gate proposal and then the Bolinas Beach groin proposal. That's the next item. And I don't know, Andrew or Kevin, did you want to speak to it or?
No, other than to say that we really discussed it at length and, for me, the revisions to the proposal kind of address what we asked him to address and look good to me, but I'll let Kevin speak if he has additional comments.
And
No, same. I think we were just mostly drilling down on costs and we sort of requested a multi-phase approach where we sort of have more check-ins and sort of decide what direction we're going before we ask them to drop the full report. So that's, Bill was on board with that.
Okay, so does your committee then recommend, I'll call the next item separately, but
Yeah,
in terms of both of the proposals, are you recommending then that we go ahead and accept your proposals?
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
For the radial gate.
yes,
we're just gonna-
for item 8, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
let's start with 8.
Can I ask a question?
Sure. Yeah.
So the debriefing conference call of 5,500 bucks. Can we just bypass that and go right into the technical memorandum?
Well, so the original proposal didn't have these, like, 3 tasks
Yeah,
broken down because they were. Gonna do the field inspection, which is kind of a robust exercise, and
Right.
and they were gonna just. Continue at an hourly rate of drawing or making a report based on what they saw needed to be done, but. We thought, well, what if we can avoid some of this? And they say, hey, you know what, this thing is not salvageable, we need to replace it. So instead of drawing and scheming and looking at the details for how the new gate would work, they can just say, it's not gonna work. That's the debrief call, like an hour-long call. And then we say, yes, go ahead with a new gate versus if it's salvageable, because there's potential that this gate can be amended and kind of reworked.
Right.
Which would be useful versus redoing the whole thing and re-pouring all the concrete.
Mhm.
So by breaking it into tasks, I think that we're saving the most amount of money because potentially task 300 isn't even required for this proposal. The debriefing call is basically like them putting together their notes and talking with us to say, look, you guys can choose path A or path B. or if there's more paths.
Seems expensive for a debriefing call. That was my thought, so I was
It's,
just looking.
it's all
to-
hourly, so it's not
Yeah.
a like, it's not gonna be 5,500. It's up to 5,550. We had the exact same concerns, we were like, it seems really high for not really getting any
Yeah,
product.
it'd be great if they could apply some of that debriefing call back to the technical memorandum,
Right,
depending on what, you know.
yeah,
How do you feel, Kevin, about this?
Yeah, no, I have the same concerns, but I feel much better about them after the meeting. Again, this is, they'll be billing us hourly. These aren't bills that they're gonna be sending us for the full amounts. Something that may put you slightly at ease, Kirsten, or maybe give you pause more, is the task 300, the technical memorandum. We were told that that'll get us up to about a 30% construction document. So that's, that's not really defined in the proposal, but Andrew and I were both, sort of confused about what exactly that technical memorandum is.
Yeah,
So it will get us part of the way there, to put this project out to bid if we decide to go that route. But again, this is, we're not agreeing for the full amount here, where it's
Yeah.
not to exceed.
Okay.
and does that include helping with like any of the permitting? I'm assuming if they're
No.
doing, no,
permitting, no.
There's no permitting required?
No, there's
No,
no
there won't
permitting
be.
included in this,
Oh.
in this proposal.
I think the main thing to do is that the field assessment is the critical piece,
Yeah.
obviously, coming out,
Yes.
doing all, and that's gonna be relatively challenging to schedule. Because we have to be at the lowest flow times of year in the creek, et cetera. But what they're gonna need to really be looking at is the condition of the gate itself, the kind of metal strength and the various moving parts, as well as the abutting concrete. Our suspicions are that it's rehabilitatable, so to speak. In other words, that we don't need to just toss what we've got and install something completely new and different. Based on the photos, the expert at Gannett Fleming thinks it looks in relatively good condition.
yeah,
And therefore, then what we would be getting is a really robust discussion of that without paying for all of that to be putting pen to paper. We'd be getting an interactive discussion about, here's what the conclusions of our field inspection. And then we'll be able to better assess what direction to go in. Can we rehabilitate the gate? And if so, what is going to be entailed in that versus, is there an unhappy answer here where like, our assessment shows that it really is at the end of its useful life and we need to be looking at a full scale replacement. And it's very tricky to work there. So those questions haven't even been addressed yet in terms of, how the project would proceed, but we feel it's important to get an assessment of this critical piece of district infrastructure. So we know what we are looking at.
So that discussion is going to involve the operations committee
yeah.
and the staff.
Mhm.
All right. Is there anything that we have to do? I mean, are we voting on the proposal or?
But if you feel ready to, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm looking for a recommendation to the board, I guess, from the committee. And from staff. What do you guys?
I would recommend that we proceed with the proposal as drafted.
Okay,
As do I.
all right. No, can I get a motion then to approve this proposal?
I so move.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, all in favor?
I
Aye. All right, 4-0, that takes us to item 9. This is a proposal from the same engineering group. This is for engineering drawings and technical specifications for repairs to the Bolinas Beach groin and the bluff protection wall.
Jack, I'm sorry, I'm not sure this was entirely clear, so I just want to be sure it's clear on the record with the proposal you just approved.
Yeah.
What we also discussed at the committee level was, and the reason it's broken out into tasks is because what the committee wants to do is first authorize task 1 and 2. So in other words, we're not approving we're not authorizing task 3 yet.
I wanted to
Yeah.
ask her that, but I
Okay.
thought, okay, I'm not gonna.
That was my understanding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I just, sorry, I was a little slow on the uptake there, where it's just like, it was all coming together. I felt like I needed to say that you've approved the proposal, but with the committee's intent, I mean, Kevin and Joe,
Right.
correct me if I'm wrong, but what we talked about at the meeting was breaking it into these tasks and then just issuing approval initially for the first 2
Yeah.
tasks.
Right,
Okay,
which is roughly 13,000.
yeah.
Right, but you're not gonna have to come back to us if you need to go back into that technical.
Right,
number.
right.
Okay, yeah, that's what I
That's
figured, and
yeah.
that's why I didn't. verify.
Okay.
All right, now good, it's good to get clarification. All right, so moving on to the next item, then this has to do with a proposal for engineering consulting services for the groin and the wall. And if the committee also meet with these people on
Mhm.
this one as well?
Yeah,
Okay,
and that was Bill.
and how do you feel about the proposal that they're submitting now?
My major question at the meeting was what is also like, what are we getting? And they are providing 100% construction documents for these repairs.
Mhm.
So I feel like they addressed the concerns that I had in the committee. Yeah. I think Kevin did the same, but I'm gonna let him speak for that.
What you're feeling, Kevin, about this proposal?
Yeah, same. A couple of things occurred to me as I reread it this week. I was just wondering why the examination of the seawall sort of ends where it does, because my recollection of walking along the beach there at the end of Wharf Road is there used to be a seawall there. Now the concrete sheets have sort of flopped down and they're maybe laying on the beach, submerged by sand. Were those different phases of concrete wall, or did that used to be a pier or something, or does anybody know what the history of that is?
There was an
why-
earlier structure there that was destroyed in the 82, 83 El Nino, from my understanding. The structure that's there now was rebuilt and completed in 86, I believe, or at least that's when the lease started, is 1986. There's a lease with the State Lands Commission. So I believe that's a prior existing groin, the remnants that you're referring to.
Is there any hope of rebuilding that section of the wall at any point in the future?
We're
I don't
talking
know.
along the groin towards Wharf Road.
I think it's talking
Yes,
about-
What you're
yeah.
talking about?
Yes, yeah.
You know, basically there is a substantial seawall that's still standing that, you know, we use to walk along the beach when the tide is high. But
Yeah.
that ends at a certain point, and then if you were to continue from that point towards Wharf Road, there are a bunch of concrete slabs that are basically just sort of sitting on the sand or maybe
Yeah.
submerged by the
Yeah.
sand, depending on the state of the storm season. So I was just sort of curious what the deal was there, why that part wasn't rebuilt, if there was any chance of rebuilding that.
But I guess my question is that relative to the groin? Are you saying could that have been a project at the same time?
Well, this proposal from Gannett Fleming, they're examining both the groin and the seawall that's still standing. So I'm just wondering what the status is of the rest of the seawall that is fallen down and is in disrepair.
I'm wondering if maybe the groin repair in 1988 was to protect that decaying concrete, and therefore it's not needed or wasn't picked up in the permit. Those pieces you're talking about.
I recall when the application came in to put in the groin and create what would basically be catching a lot of sand that would then build up at the base of the cliff and stop the erosion on the cliff. And I think that the project was allowed to be built by the state if we set aside enough money to maintain it, but that money that we set aside is, I think, dedicated to the groin, as I recall. So we would have to be talking about two different sources of funds, you know, not that we can't do it. But my recollection is when the groin project was established, it had particular goal in mind, which was to create more beach and
Yes.
protect the cliff. And it didn't involve creating that wall or fixing the wall that you're talking about. So, I think they're separate in terms of the way we've always related to it. But I know that we
Okay.
decide money every budget, as I recall, for growing repair, right? And then
Mhm.
periodically we use it. But I don't think it is supposed to be applied to the wall, not that we can't do it, but we've always focused just on the groin. So I'm just,
Well, there's the staircase and then there's the section of wall that is, I think, considered part of it, which is the section that, from the staircase, then that heads toward wharf. That's part of the structure as I understand it. That was certainly part of the scope of Ron's inspection report.
and the question is, how far does that wall, because what Kevin's talking about are those big slabs, right, that are just
Yeah.
kind of laying there,
Which is much further down and detached from that wall.
Yes.
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
That's
I mean,
right,
I just imagine it was one continuous wall at some point that then, fell apart or came apart in storms, but it's okay. I don't want to muddy the waters. I'm not trying to make this a bigger thing than we already have in front of us. So I was just sort of curious what the history was there.
I think it's a good question.
yeah. I don't think that the project, as we talked about the wall and the groin, ever contemplated extending all the way, for instance, to the end of Wharf Road. So there's sort of a no man's land in there,
Mhm.
I wonder who
Yep.
I wonder who would be knowledgeable, who was involved in the project back in the
Rudy
80s.
Ferris.
Yeah, maybe
That's
so.
possible.
I could follow up with
Because
him.
he's been a big supporter of this, and
Yeah,
I think feels that it has proven to be successful,
yeah,
and worth continuing
Yeah.
maintaining the growing.
Yeah.
I'll talk with Rudy just to get that see if we can get that historical perspective.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure there's some information here as well.
I can ask Steve Kinsey. What he remembers. He
Okay,
knows a lot about the grind wall.
really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
All right, so focusing on what's on the agenda and what's before us. This is a proposal for engineering consulting services for the groin and for the section of wall that we're talking about. Which is incorporated as part of the groin project. So is there a recommendation from the committee to approve this proposal?
Yeah, I recommend that we approve it.
Okay, Kevin?
I guess I had some questions.
Yeah, go.
I've shared, Jennifer, just, so it sounds like I read your report after I read the proposal. It sounds like they're anticipating about a 1 month to prepare the CDs once they do the observation.
I don't remember the details in there, but
I
yeah.
think that's what you guys
Yeah.
discussed. Okay, that's what I picked up after the fact. So I was just curious about time frame. Sounds like it's roughly 1 month. And are we okay for specifying and implementing the signage? Versus them doing that? Just feels like that's something that they should be doing.
I don't know if we talked about that.
Okay, so that's something I picked. I'll just give you all my quick
Sure.
comments. Are we okay with managing the permitting? I would have thought that they would have managed the permitting with Marin County, California Coastal Commission, and does it require a separate building permit? So it may take them 1 month to develop the drawings, but I was thinking like, how long is it actually gonna take us to go through permitting? They're not doing permitting, they're deferring permitting to us. I don't know if Jennifer's up for that.
Was that discussed at all, Jennifer, the permitting aspect of it?
That we talked about whether or not to include construction management services, and I think the feeling was that would be probably prohibitively expensive, that we typically do the construction management and permitting during projects, so but we'll have to see what happens. The feeling was that it's a fairly straightforward repair and replace in kind, but once we have the drawings,
Yeah,
we can take it to the coastal commission and state lands commission and say. Is there anything that'll be required here?
okay.
As long as you know that the key is just not expanding the footprint in any way. And just simply dealing with repair and replacement in kind, which is what we're talking about.
Well, it's a surface repair, it's not a structural
The correct,
repair.
right?
So when you say repair of what's in kind.
Well, there might be some
it's-
replacement of concrete or steel, I think,
Mhm.
depending on, we'll see what they
What
come up
the
with.
findings are,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And then were you okay with a thin email? I mean, it felt thin to me, based on their observations, they were just gonna send you a brief email versus a report of their findings.
I think they're trying to keep the cost down.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're trying to be out here to verify the inspection report,
Yeah.
they're not seeing anything, different or additional than what Ron Noble had identified in his inspection report, which of course they've reviewed as part of this.
Okay.
I mean, our main goal is to have construction drawings and technical specifications that we can use to then implement the repair project.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think that the question about the signage just might need to go, I guess they just don't want to be responsible for that, but there's historically been two signs, one on each end of the groin.
Yeah,
I just think we would replace them in kind where they are.
yeah, cause that one way out at the end feels like it's integrated into the structure.
Oh, it
That's why
is.
I'm wondering, like, why would we wanna take that on versus asking them to do that? So that was a minor thing. And then I'm assuming, so this 36K in addition to what Ron Noble has already done in his prior observation. But they're gonna put it out to bid, and are they gonna oversee the contract?
No, we would be doing all of that. This is just
So
a
you're gonna
construct,
oversee the contractor implementing the work. Okay,
yeah,
that's
unless
why
we
I
hire a
said-
project manager, but I think that it would be. The tricky question about it all is gonna be the site conditions, like.
yeah,
There's the sand levels go up and down so much that we've gotta have them out for their work. During an optimal time when the sand levels are really low, so, and then, of course, actually doing the repair work would also have to be tightly coordinated, yeah. So, yeah, it's tricky,
Yeah,
it's a tricky project.
or you can calendar something for a certain day, and then if the sand screws you up, you have to reschedule it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're probably gonna have to start monitoring it fairly closely, get it more of a sense of whether there's predictability to it. I mean, we have at least one staff member who regularly surfs out there, but I don't know that he's like every day looking at the sand level next to the groin, just might be that we need to start looking at that carefully.
well, I think it's seasonal for sure.
Mhm.
And then when at the low tides, I think summer's gonna be a lot easier than obviously than winter. But the movement of the sand, I think we've seen so much movement in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
More than, I've only been here for 20 some odd years, so. I've seen more movement of sand in the last 2 years than I think I've ever seen, but talking to Rudy, and maybe. Ralph or somebody. You were.
Well,
fisherman,
Yeah, I've always just been stunned at the amount of sand that appears and disappears and then
Yeah.
comes back. I remember we were doing one below Surfers Overlook. And we were gonna do some digging and about 3 feet of sand or something just showed up and
Yeah,
messed up the whole study, had to come back another time.
yeah.
Yeah, and then it was gone, so. All right, well, where will we go?
Anyway, thank you for letting me. Drill down.
Yeah.
Well, they're happy if you wanna pause on this and have us do some, talk with Rudy or get some more background about things, it's not. you know, it doesn't have to be decided tonight if you're not comfortable, but.
No, I'm
Keep it moving.
comfortable, I just wanted to ask the questions, I think you've already asked some of these questions, so. Not having been part of the conversation, I wanted to drill down. You know, again, my minor comments would be 15% markup seems kind of high, I would ask them to do 10%, and I would ask them for travel time, usually I want to see that filled at half hour, but it sounds like they're gonna combine the two projects, so I thought it wasn't aware.
Yeah,
So-
they're willing to do this work,
Yeah.
which goes a long way for us out here.
That's
and there's
huge,
really not
yeah.
many options.
Yeah,
Then we have a good relationship,
okay,
and we did talk to them about if we could consolidate the visits, but it's
Great.
different times of year and they're gonna. They reworked it a little bit to minimize it, but,
okay,
yeah, it's kind of.
not knowing that.
We were
sorry.
like, oh, do you have to
Yeah,
really come all the way out from like Roseville?
Right,
So like they have, Kevin noticed that they have like an East
Right.
Bay, they have like an East
Yeah.
Bay office. but
yeah,
They're experts for this stuff is out there and that's kind of where our relationships are.
yeah, and we need a partner, so
We need a
if they're
partner.
willing to partner.
All right,
that's what we do.
gonna get in a motion to approve this proposal.
I'm.
So that's it, are you making the motion?
I'm making the motion,
Okay, second,
sorry.
I will second.
all right. Any
I have
further,
one more question, Jennifer, I
Sure.
noticed
go for
at
it.
at the top, they added in Point Reyes National Seashore on this version of the proposal that wasn't there
Oh.
before. Is the groin actually part of Point Reyes? Because
No.
if not, I don't think that should be on there.
I agree, yeah. I didn't notice that before either, but yes, it shouldn't be. I wonder if he just. I don't know why he put that there, but.
I think maybe he added it in for the radial gate because that is in Point Reyes, so he assumed this was part of it as well, or
Okay.
maybe it was a mistake.
Yeah, I just think it was a mistake.
Yeah, mistake, I think they're just copying from the prior one and forgot to delete it.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, but let's not add in the seashore if we don't need to.
No.
Yeah.
Our one
Yeah.
does not say Point Reyes. Oh, no, it does. It says Lower Division, Gloria Honda Creek. Point
Yeah,
Reyes.
yeah. All right, so with that correction on the proposal to delete Point Reyes National Seashore. That was a second, is that right? Moved and seconded?
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Alright.
Aye. All right, 4-0, very good. We're gonna move on to. Item 10, BPUD Resolution 720, authorizing the president of the board of directors of the BPUD to execute a quitclaim deed on behalf of the Bolinas Beach Public Utility District as predecessor and interest of the BPUD, relinquishing to the BPUD rights and interests in property held in the name of the Bolinas Beach Public Utility District. So,
The mouthful.
are you ready for this one? So it turns out, I think it came up again, and it periodically just rises to the
Oh,
surface.
really? Oh,
And it came up in the context, I think, of the surveyor.
yep,
Who did some title searching and found out that in fact title to the our property.
Yeah.
Is still held in the name of Bolinas Beach Public Utility District, which no longer exists. Because the Bolinas Community Public Utility District that we are took over from that other district.
yeah,
And so, technically, we, the BPUD, are not the title owners of this property because it's still in the name of our predecessor that doesn't exist. And so I worked a little bit with Jennifer on this and she got some good documents from some people at the county. And there is a mechanism by which I can sign a deed as the president of the BPUD, which is the successor in interest of the Bolinas Beach Public Utility District. Wearing that hat, giving title to us from our predecessor, which is also us because they don't exist.
That makes sense.
It's a legal fiction is what it is, but it works because at the end of the day. Title will now be in the name of the BPUD, which it has to be for a lot of, legal reasons. And there's two steps, if I recall, we have to pass the resolution.
yeah,
And then we do a certificate of acceptance.
yeah,
So the resolution basically authorizes us to execute the quitclaim deed and the certificate of acceptance. Then, as it's, you know, as the name says, formally accepts that title.
So do we have to approve resolution 720 first?
I would say,
Yeah.
yeah. So first we vote on the resolution.
Yeah,
And then we vote on the certificate of acceptance. And
okay,
then I'll arrange with Jennifer to get together with the notary and I'll sign the deed and we'll put title in our name.
great.
So-
I make a motion to approve, the resolution
The
720.
claim, okay, is there a second?
I will second.
I had a quick question about resolution 720 before we approve it.
Okay,
I just find this language a little confusing that, you know, I'm not super, this isn't really my area of expertise, so just want to clarify something. It says that Bolinas Beach Public Utility District, which, as I understand it, is no longer in existence.
right,
Resolution 720, I believe, says that it hereby relinquishes, but can an organization that isn't in existence hereby relinquish anything? Is that the right way of writing that?
well, the word relinquish has to do more with the quitclaim deed, which follows. A quitclaim deed is a deed in which you relinquish any and all interest that you have in something to whoever you're granting it to. So that language is really applied to the Bolinas, even though it doesn't exist anymore, Bolinas Beach Public Utility District. We wear two hats right now, and the hat we're wearing is the successor in interest, so we're relinquishing. As a
Okay.
Bolinas Beach Public Utility District, whatever interest is had.
Okay,
Because that's what requires a quitclaim deed. I don't want to get into the legalisms, but the difference between a quitclaim deed and a grant deed is the grant deed says, I own this and I'm giving you my good title. A quitclaim deed says, whatever interest I have, whatever that may be, I'm giving to you. So that's why the quitclaim deed is what functions here. And we basically copied the procedure that was used in another district to accomplish the same thing. So we're just sort of doing what we know works with the county. Ultimately, it's up to the recorder to accept it, but I'm sure they will. So,
okay, just want to make sure that we're getting the language correct, but you feel confident about it, you and Jennifer feel
Yeah.
good about it.
yeah,
Okay. Great. I noticed there's also a typo at the end. It's on the date. It says December is spelled wrong, so you may want to correct
Oh.
that.
I got it. Thank you.
for you, Kevin.
Yeah.
All right. Is there, did you make a motion already on this?
Okay.
Okay, and that was seconded.
Yes.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. 4-0, okay, and then I think we need to have a separate vote on the certificate of acceptance. So can I get a motion then that the board approve a certificate of acceptance of the grant of title to this property?
I sent it.
Grace was the moved, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Kristen.
I had another quick question before you vote on it, please.
Sure.
Just curious if our property will be reassessed and might our property tax bill go up, or what, if there are any ramifications of this action?
We pay property tax?
No.
Did you hear that answer?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
but
Public utilities don't pay property tax.
Okay, sweet, thank you.
Good question.
Good question.
okay, any other questions? All right, can I get a motion for the certificate of acceptance?
I moved to approve the certificate of acceptance.
All right,
I think I'll second it.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0. All right, we'll clean up our title for the property.
Good job.
Do we need to approve the form of quitclaim deed, or what do you think?
Oh, no, I think it's incorporated into the resolution, isn't it?
Let me just make sure.
Because that, the quitclaim deed is really just,
The form of which is attached here too.
ministerial
Okay, no,
act
it's
that
good. It's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the form's attached to the resolution, so. Okay.
Yeah.
I had a couple of quick questions on the quitclaim deed. I know, sorry, there's no exhibit A, there's no map that's referenced from exhibit A. Was that an error, or is that just somewhere that I don't know where to look for?
Usually-
You mean the survey?
Oh,
When you
is
say
it-
that,
I think exhibit A is the like meets and bounds description.
Yeah.
at the bottom.
yeah, Normally, a quick claim deed or any deed like that wouldn't necessarily have a map, it would just have a legal description of the parcel
Okay.
being conveyed. So that's what
Got
a CA is.
Okay, got it. And then
Yeah.
I was also curious at the top, are we supposed to check unincorporated area? It seems like there are some boxes to check and we haven't checked any of them. Are we supposed to check unincorporated area there?
Could, I don't know that that would matter to the recorder, but, yeah. We could check off the box of unincorporated as opposed to city of.
Mhm.
Okay, Jennifer, we'll do that.
If we need to, I mean, don't we see, isn't it that revenue and taxation code section that means that we have no tax? We don't have to pay any transfer tax,
Right, I
right?
mean, it does, the boxes that you're looking at, Kevin, all relate to how you compute the transfer tax.
Okay, got it.
But they're not gonna be applicable in this case because of who we are. So
Okay,
none of the boxes apply to us. Okay,
okay, great. And then in the footnote at the bottom, it says 2020. I'm not sure if that should be changed to 2023, if that's just boilerplate footnote language that doesn't matter.
typo.
I saw that too.
Yeah, we'll change that
No.
for the notary, you mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It will either be 23 or 24, depending on when we get carried.
Yeah, if this doesn't
Yeah.
get signed in the next, yeah, I might have to change the signature date itself to 2024 unless I sign it in the next 2 days or so.
Right, we'll have to figure,
We'll figure that
yeah.
one out, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So.
Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
You know, this is the old style, property description, right, where you just go. You go down Elm and then you turn left on Laurel and then you turn right on Alder. That's how we used to do it,
Mhm.
so, okay. On to the next item. Update from the ad hoc committee on the BCPUD building at 270 Elm Road. Staff presentation regarding proposed relocation for portable office. So this is a question that's now come up. I guess has to do with timing. At some point, we will have to start making arrangements to have a portable office set up and everything moved out of the building as we get to where we're gonna start scheduling demolition. So what's the, is there any schedule in mind? Is there any thought about when that should happen? And also we need lead time, right? How much lead time do we need, do you think?
well, at the last meeting, I think it was Andrew that asked that we start gathering some information about this to know just to start informing ourselves. And I think he also expressed some concerns about, you know, continuing to be in the building, knowing it's not in great shape. And so this is kind of the first step in that process, which is to solicit, and got this proposal from Will Scott. We worked with Will Scott years ago when we did the ADA remodel for the building. And we were in a portable for about 4 months out in the parking lot. Do you remember? It was in 2011. And so it's a similar idea that we think that the portable would probably be best placed in front of the wood chip pile area. We could move the wood chips around, but just out here so that it's out of the zone, the construction zone. But close, at least we think, you know, that would be the plan, but close enough to be able to get the power dropped from the building. And then also, we were talking with our IT person about how we would move our network and other internet equipment there. And he has some questions about the portable structure that we're gonna be corresponding with Will Scott about, like we think there's a drop ceiling in there so that you can then have cables and, you know, putting equipment up in the drop ceiling. And then we're also trying to then get more specific about what the interior configuration of space would be. If you look at the very basic diagram on the last page of the proposal, you can see that it's like it's 60 feet by 12 feet, and there's 2 offices on either end of the portable, and then there's a common space in the middle and a bathroom. And so that it would probably be about the same size as the current office space that we're using now, maybe minus where the copier is. So we're gonna be trying to actually Chris, our IT guy, is gonna take this into it. He has a program where we'd be able to then actually start sketching out where things would go, so we would know how everything would fit. And the price, just to have this sort of order of magnitude idea of what we would be talking about here, this is essentially a little bit over a 3-year lease, which amounts to just under $75,000. And that's about $2,000 a month. And it includes well, a number of things that you can see on the proposal itself, but it also includes delivery, installation, and return. So I think it's really helpful just to have this information to know, this is kind of what we would be looking at for kind of office costs during the duration for whenever we decide to start it. And I have checked with the firehouse about being able to consistently reserve the firehouse public meeting room for the board meetings. And in principle, that's going to work. There might have to be a little flexibility now and then, given that it's primarily their space. They said sometimes they've had to rejigger their board meetings, but in general, the third Wednesday of the month is available to be able to have the meetings there.
You can use the library at the school. It's lots bigger than this.
Okay,
Or the community center.
And nothing, libraries goes to.
yeah, the community center would work well for setting up the equipment.
Yeah, but the library is fine. I mean, we do Zoom stuff there all the time, and it's the school board meets on Tuesdays. So
Okay.
Wednesday's free.
How
So
about the Rod and Boat Club? I feel like we have lots of options in Bolinas for meeting spaces.
Yeah, the Rod and Boat Club's not, I don't think would be.
The technology probably wouldn't be so great in there.
Yeah.
Might be better at the school.
They got fiber optics.
No, I just know it's a nonprofit but private club, and I don't think, this would align with. Plus, they have a limited capacity of structure. I don't think it's a good location.
No,
But
and
this-
there's parking would be hard too.
No, I think this school's definitely an option.
So one
Okay.
thing I think is if we're gonna start down this road, I mean, we've already started down the road. But at some point, I think it's important to put something on our agenda and inform the community that this is really happening, that we're making a decision to rent these portables and set them up. Because we're gonna be tearing down this building and we want everybody to know. Because people are gonna go, well, what are you gonna be building in its place? And when do we get to see the design and all that kind of stuff? And I'd like to be able to have us respond in whatever our response is. But we should have our own game plan so that we can address it to the community, because we are gonna be hearing from people, wanting to know, well, what's going up and when, and how long is the trailer gonna be there and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to put that on the table too, as for our discussion right now. And do we need to have a actual calendar of our plan, or do we just, can we speak in more generalities about?
Well, I think we talked about getting this proposal because when did the report come out?
we got it in 2022, January 2022. So
Okay, so, I think our obligation is to make sure that our staff and operations team are safe.
Yeah.
And in a building that's been deemed to is not has some structural issues, right?
Oh, yeah.
We go, so I think by the time we actually come up with a program, we work with the community to understand what is this site gonna be, is it gonna be standalone BCPUD, is there gonna be any potential partnership, the community has expressed interest in the building, it's not a historically listed building, but people have some affinity infection with the building.
I think that's gonna be a long process, so I'm glad to hear that you've looked at a proposal that's 3 years. Because even if we had a proposal right now, it would probably take 3 years
Mhm.
to get through the design, the planning, the building, permitting, and the construction.
Mhm.
So I think it's gonna be. How quickly can this community move on coming up with a program? That's going to really, when we distill it down, it's about making sure our staff are safe in the building that they're operating in.
So what I'm hearing you say then is that while we're working on that long range plan, we should just start this proposal now.
That was my thought,
Okay,
so I'm glad to see, you know, and to hear that this is a 3-year proposal. It wasn't clear to me, but I hear you now, Jennifer, that it includes removal. Right, and return of it, and I'm assuming they projected what that would be in a 3-year.
Does this
There-
accommodate the hearsay as well?
No. So that would we need to have that conversation. I mean, this is just sort of a first step. We need, there will need to be there will be additional costs that will need to be added to this. For example, there's gonna need to be some sort of holding tank. And having it pumped out regularly. And seeing what that, I mean, I know that's what we were looking at for the post office, for example, and I'll connect with Steve Mattson about that, because he had something that he and Melinda, they had worked out something with some sort of holding tank in the rear of the building that would then be pumped out. And there'll be that cost, there'll be costs of just getting the electrician to move the power drop over, getting the IT stuff set up, and I think it'll take I think it'll take a little bit more thoughtfulness to figure out how to do it, and to figure out how that we'll have the offices configured, what will be moved over there critically. Not obviously not everything right away doesn't have to be in there, but when the building eventually does come down, of course, the rest of the stuff will need to be moved. And we have storage space over at the lab building at the sewer ponds, but and I don't know if it would mean another storage unit. We could look at that. I mean, it's just a bit of a work in progress.
so do you have any idea about recommending when we would initiate this process here, which is to start signing a lease agreement with these folks? And
Well, I think I would like to just, if there's no objection, just to continue gathering information about this additional costs, like the electrical costs, like the waste disposal cost. And it's because I think this is the bulk of the cost, obviously, is over that period of time to be renting the unit. But there will be some additional costs, and then figuring out the internal configuration and what we would need to do about that. Is there gonna need to be furniture purchased, or
And the effort to relocate, right?
sorry?
The effort to relocate,
Yeah.
and moving all of this stuff, to your point, whether it's into this unit or into storage. That's not included in this cost.
I think we would, I mean, I think the staff could do that. But we have, 6 people that I think we'd be able to do that. We did it last time with the portable that we had outside. It's funny, I can remember working in it. I don't have a clear memory of how we moved everything in, but I'm sure that we just did it with our existing stuff.
Blur.
Yeah, it's just a blur.
You mentioned Melinda, is, Melinda,
Well, Melinda, wait, with regard to the post office, Melinda
Okay,
not
Griffith.
Stone, Melinda Griffith and
Yeah.
Einar Sawyer
Okay.
and Steve. When we were working on the post office proposal, they had worked out something very specific for the holding tank and an arrangement with Coast Sanitary to pump it. So I just want to get that information and add in what that cost would be so that we would know.
okay.
so to just throw a dart at the wall here, do we think like 6 months, like June of 2024? could be a goal for when we would engage this option.
Sure, I mean, they can have the unit here within 3 weeks. The portable company can. And especially if we're not asking them to do any sort of configuration, they just deliver it as is, and then. I mean, we wouldn't be intending to move any walls or change anything, you know, we would just be intending to. To make sure we're ready and know exactly what's
Yeah.
going where and who's going where.
Well,
So,
6 months seems like a good amount of time to inform the community.
Mhm.
Again, I mean, that's 5 more meetings, right?
Yeah,
So that they know what the intent is.
Mhm.
Also gives you and the staff an opportunity to assess how much is gonna need to be moved and removed.
Yeah.
And or stored.
yeah,
We should have a committee meeting in January to talk
Mhm.
about it, to map stuff out a little
Yeah.
bit more,
Yeah.
inventory, what needs to happen. Cause we've talked about all the records and having them professionally scanned or
Yeah.
hiring an intern to scan them. I think we need to like really put some of these pieces in buckets and figure out how they need to move with the project.
yeah,
Cause otherwise, I mean, we've been talking about this for 18 months, right? Like this. I kind of sense what you're saying, Chris, and like, we need to just be like, we're gonna do it this day. And even if the building sits for a while, we're gonna do a transition.
I just think the community needs more time than 3 months. And we
Yeah.
probably need more than that, but to go beyond 6 months, I start getting worried that. Then we're almost 2 years into a report that says, I feel protective of our staff,
I think 6 months seems reasonable, yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
You got any thoughts, Kevin?
Oh, yeah, I just had some specific questions about the proposal, Jennifer. There are a few items that I don't understand what they mean on page 2.
Okay,
But by the way, I'm in favor of the 6-month timeframe. I think developing a timeline for the whole project would benefit me and probably the community at large. I don't know if having the geotech report, have we seen the geotech yet? Having some of these reports start to come in may inform the ad hoc committee to sort of come up with a timeline for the entire project, even if it's not perfect. At least let's get some timeline together. But as far as the proposal here from Mobile Mini, professional office package, basic workstation package, basic conference package, those add up to be about $10,000 of the $75,000 bill. Is that furniture, or is that, what is that exactly? And like, what are we getting for that, that monthly charge?
I'll have to ask for some detail about that.
Okay, I guess I would hope that we can reuse, furniture we have temporarily, or maybe it's kind of customized to fit into the container, and maybe it's something that we would actually need, but I was just wondering what all that stuff is.
Okay,
Are we able to hook up to our septic system on the property, or like you say, we need to install a separate tank?
I'm pretty sure we would need a tank, but we can explore that too, about whether that's possible.
Well,
Okay, and-
particularly if we're going to occupy this while a project's going on in construction and you're gonna redo the septic system.
Yeah,
depending on
exactly.
What,
Yeah,
So it should be separate anyway, perhaps. And I was also wondering if we should add on another shipping container for storage of documents and things, or maybe even just to get everything out of the building and into a shipping container to sort, or I just was curious, Jennifer, if you think we need additional storage beyond this office compound.
I don't think so, but we'll know more in 6 months. I think that's why I like that 6-month time frame, because I'll have gone through everything by then. All the documents to know what we need to keep and don't.
Okay.
So that's a good time frame.
Okay, that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that answers my question about time frame. 6 months sounds like a good one to work with. Go ahead, Grace.
Are we the landlords of the Harrison?
Yeah,
Yeah,
So we need to give them. I mean, have they know this is going on? Have you-
Yeah.
I know you talked to them informally. Do we need to give them formal notice and.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll need,
I think
Yes, they're
they're entitled to,
I wonder where they're gonna.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
yeah, we'll talk with them.
Yeah,
I think we need to talk to them and we probably also need to do paper things.
I think they're entitled to a 60-day written notice that their tenancy is being terminated.
Yeah, I mean, they should start. It's hard to find places.
Yeah, it is.
You know, like the sooner they start trying to find a place, the better for them.
Yes, yeah.
That's what we-
All right, well,
Don't they have a huge printing press in there that would need to be relocated somewhere?
That's my belief.
Yeah, so, I mean, their footprint in there is tiny.
It is,
Yeah,
yeah,
but they got a lot of stuff.
yeah, there's a huge table and then there's copier and I mean, there's some a computer, I mean, I can't, but it's the space is, you
It's
know,
really little.
it's
Small.
smaller than my office, I
Yeah.
think.
it's quite
Mhm.
small. Yeah,
Yeah,
oh, if you get one of those tuffy sheds or whatever you call them, you know,
Or fit a shipping
or-
container.
yeah. Something like that, huh? And
Have
just put it
Mickey
up
Rich
next,
cut some holes in it.
what's that?
Have Mickey cut some holes in it and put some windows in it. Be great.
All right.
Maybe a Grand Hotel. Maybe there's space in the Grand Hotel for them.
Yeah,
Oh,
good use.
Gosh, that's a nice.
that's a pretty good idea. Huh? Yeah, I wonder what their plans are for that space. Does anybody know?
I was wondering that last week. No, I have no idea.
Well,
Move the beef in.
yeah, we should follow up on
That building's older than this building. I think.
yeah. All right, so that's our report, I guess, on this agenda item. I mean, we'll just continue to gather information and get, your committee can do the time frame, and Jennifer will start collecting more information on costs and timing, and we'll just keep talking about this every meeting, huh? Okay. Moving on to item, where are we now? 12, volunteer committee reports. The resident permit parking plan committee, I think Jennifer's already reported on that. Is there anything more, Jennifer?
no,
Resource recovery, you know, unless there is. And the
No.
land stewardship committee, anything? Nothing, okay, then we go on to other business, board committee reports, finance committee, update on their audit for fiscal year 22-23, financial statements. Fiscal year 23-24, first quarter financial statement.
yeah, and just real quickly on the, we're still working on the audit, it was, as you all know, Bell needed to be out for a couple weeks this month, and so, we're a little behind on, getting all the documents to the auditor, but that's all in process. I'm expecting that to be wrapping up next month. And then, for the 23-24 first quarter financial statements, those are in your binders, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any. That'd be the balance sheet and profit and loss statements, and then the individual reports for the separate enterprises.
Okay, anybody have any questions about any of these financial statements or reports?
I was hoping they would bring.
I don't hear any, no,
No questions.
no questions, no questions.
Okay,
Okay, so let's see, legal committee, I don't think we have anything. Mesa Septic Flood Control and Roads Committee, anything from? I don't think they, okay. Water and sewer. We have minutes of the November 8th Operations Committee meeting and minutes of the December 1st Operations Committee meeting.
the November 8th meeting minutes are actually approved by the committee because they were approved by the committee at the December 1st meeting. But we do need to have approval of the December 1st Operations Committee meeting.
Okay. Gonna get a motion then to approve those minutes of the December 1st Operations Committee meeting.
Can we approve those if we, or does that need to be the people who are in attendance?
So I understand you don't have to be there in order to approve the minutes. Seems a little bizarre, but that's how we've always done it. Huh?
Yeah, I'm not I included it on the agenda because I wasn't sure when the next meeting was gonna be. I forgot about the fact that with Kevin not being here, I don't know if we should just hold off to approve that until he's back.
Okay. Yeah, they look fine to me. I didn't really have any comments.
Okay.
I mean, I read through them, but I didn't know.
Mhm.
Is there any reason, Jennifer, that you know of why we cannot vote on those minutes?
I don't, but I haven't, I have to admit that it's rare that this has happened, so I don't know off the top of my
Okay.
head. I
So
apologize.
should we defer it until Kevin, when do you come back?
I will be back in person for the February meeting.
Can't we just have you make a motion to approve them if you were part of that and we agree to approve them? And if there's any issue with our approval without Kevin, then you'll let us know.
Okay, sure, we can do it that way.
Just
Yeah.
keep it going.
Yeah, good.
Well, then I would move to approve the December 1st, 2023 Operation Committee meeting minutes.
Okay. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. Personnel Committee. Minutes of the October 16th Personnel Committee meeting.
There's the money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I move we approve the minutes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I was looking at this.
Then,
My little state classified.
Go back.
yeah. So we have a list of all the different minutes of the different meetings. Let's take them in sequence or.
yeah. So with October 4th special meeting,
Find those. Okay, so we start with the October 4th special board meeting.
Yeah.
And those minutes, can I get a motion to approve them?
I send it.
Is there a second?
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Then we go on to the minutes of the October 18th, the regular board meeting. Any changes or corrections to those minutes?
I have a question about something we discussed at that meeting that I wanted to ask about, which is the STR license permits and how they may trigger an LWUP application with BPUD. My memory of that meeting is that we sort of thought that a change in use at a property would trigger an LWUP application, but in the minutes here, it's written that we would need to amend one of our resolutions. So I just wanted to put that back on the table for us to consider if we need to do that.
Okay.
yeah, I remember discussing that because it just, resolution 655 just says triggering a county building or use permit, and so I guess it's a technical question about, I mean, they're considered a license, not a use permit, as I understand it. So we could, we either can amend 655 to make clear that it would include a license agreement that involved a change of use of the property, or we could ask our attorney whether or not it covers the license language. Because it currently doesn't say that it's resolution 655, which is, amended resolution 173 with regard to limited water use permits doesn't specifically refer to licenses.
Right. It seemed like the prudent thing to do would be to amend it and include the word license, and there would be no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just thinking out loud.
I vaguely remember there being the word use and permit in some capacity in the STR language. And so I think that's what Kevin jumped on. So maybe we just need to revisit the actual final document from the county about STRs and see if there is amending necessary.
I thought I saw that there's going to be a hearing coming up on
Yeah.
those regulations, like in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Mhm.
All right. You wanna wait until that occurs and then come back.
double check that language and then see whether or not we should then address that, then
Yeah,
need to amend 655.
yeah.
Well, I don't want to, assume that all of the board members are in favor of this, LWUP requirement for STR operators in Bolinas, but it seemed, my memory of it was that there was general agreement among the board. So I just want to make sure that this, once the STR permit or license, whatever the county calls it, is live, that we have a mechanism in place if the board decides that we want this,
Yeah,
for these STR operators to, that they're required to apply for an LWUP. So I don't know. The timing is tricky, I guess. If we wait for the county's final language about the STR license procedures, then we may be too late. And if people start getting licenses before we have our language figured out with our own resolutions, then, I just don't want to miss the boat on it. So
You got a thought on that, Jennifer?
Well, the other thing I thought, I don't remember then the minutes per se, but I thought there was discussion about the fact that they're limited to 250 gallons of water a day by the county under this program, and that our limit would be only slightly different than that. Remember Don Smith saying
yeah,
something about that?
I think it's in the
Yeah.
minutes, actually.
Is that in the
Yeah,
minute?
I think Kevin's concern is simply that right now our resolution doesn't expressly use the word license, and so. Does that create some kind of an escape clause for enforcement, and would it be easier to just add the word license as well as permit? That way we've covered our bases.
So I don't know what sort of licenses does the county grant other than the STR license? Would we be opening? Would we then require anybody with a county license of any kind, or should we specifically call it out as an STR license?
Yeah, I would,
Very specific,
yes.
otherwise we're in trouble.
Okay, is it worth asking our lawyer about this, Jennifer, or do we just want to go ahead and add something to the agenda to add that language to 655? What do you guys think?
I mean, why don't we just add it to our resolution, just to plug the hole. So that there's no question, in case somebody comes up one day and says, I don't see the word license in your resolution, so.
Hmm.
We put it in there.
Yeah,
So have it on the January meeting agenda?
Yeah, why don't we just do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
Okay.
you don't think we need to run it by an attorney?
no, I mean, we're entitled to amend our resolution and, yeah.
It's easy enough to ask. I can
Yeah.
do that before the
Okay.
board.
Yeah, I mean,
considers
you
it.
don't see it as a concern.
No, I know. All right, so yeah, put it on the agenda for January, and any other comments on the minutes for the October 18th regular board meeting? If not,
Not for me. Nope, thank you.
okay,
Thank you.
and get a motion to approve those minutes,
I move to approve those minutes.
that'd be the October 18th.
October 18th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we move on to the minutes of the October 25th special board meeting.
Yeah.
Closed, open, closed, open.
I move to approve the minutes of the October 25th board meeting,
Okay,
special board meeting.
special board meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0.
Who seconded? Sorry. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Chris. Now we go to the minutes of the October 31st special board meeting. Quite similar. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I move to approve the October 31st special meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
3 seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0. And finally, the minutes of the November 15th. Regular board meeting. Jennifer, you caught all the way up. huh?
Yeah, finally.
Congratulations.
Huge amount of work.
And-
Oh my God.
Of course, those special board meeting ones are pretty simple.
Yeah.
But it's still a lot.
Okay, and so, is there any comments, corrections, or changes to the minutes of the November 15th regular board meeting? And if not, can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
Let's see them.
They came and went on my computer. I move to approve the minutes of the November 15th, 2023 regular meeting of the board of directors.
Thank you.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're current. Okay, now can we get a motion to approve the warrants?
Yeah, I just had one minor question.
Sure.
So Andrew Spalding, there was a reimbursement. 3464. I'm sure there's a good reason for it, but it
Oh.
just jumped out.
Yeah, no, thanks. It's a pump. He bought it on his credit card. It's a pump that we're using on Neozola. And he ordered it on Amazon Prime, got here faster, and so we're
Huh.
reimbursing him for that. And actually, that'll also be capitalized, but that's why it was so big.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions? If not, how about a motion to approve the warrants?
I'll make a motion to approve the warrants.
So moved,
I will second.
seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0. Schedule our next meeting,
January 17th.
January 17th. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Kevin.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Stay dry.
Have a good time.
Happy holidays.
Cool. Get a suntan.
Yeah, we got rain.
Yeah.